One of the only scenes where I cried while making it, because it's a scene where a parent leaves a child. I'm not going to say only father because, and I told them that when I used to go to boarding school, the most difficult moment is the moment you tell your parents goodbye, and I said that's kind of what I want to capture here. That last hug, where you don't really want to go but you kind of have to, and it's a reluctance of that moment, where they even touch it, and it's the first time in the film they really embrace. And so that's the one scene that I had a really strong emotional connection to while directing it as well. When I first went to Varanasi, I booked a ticket for my return, and I extended it by almost, I think, 10 days. It's this weird city where you can't leave it. It's a city that's kind of how I describe to Europeans, especially it's like the Vatican of India. Babylon, Vatican, it's an ancient city with high religious significance, but it's also full of contradictions. It's a city, for me, like the characters of the film, it's kind of torn between, it's kind of figuring out its identity, between whether it's a traditional city or whether it's an internet hub, and it's also got so much tourism going for it. That's a dark sense of tourism in a way, where death is the fabric, is a part of the city, where children who grow up there are so apathetic to death because they see it on the street while they go to school, but they continue playing with each other or not even realizing that what's being passed along. Yeah. So for me to be in this city that has so much energy, so much color, every wall is like blue or pink or green, it's like this hyper colored place, but it's the city of death, was something that really struck me and was something that really, I think it was one of the main reasons I wanted to make a film there. I wanted to bring Varanasi into Mukti Bhavan, the city itself. I wanted the place to embody that.
And did you know when you went to Varanasi that you were thinking of setting something there, or did it just take you by surprise?
No, I went to Mukti Bhavan first from a place of fascination because I couldn't believe there's this place my friend had told me where people are checking in to die and they have 2 weeks to die or they have to go back home. Wow. And for me, that was enough to... want to go visit this place. So when I went there, I realized that it's just, I think the first time I thought this could be a story was when I entered the place and I saw a rule board there. And it had all the rules of what guests in this almost institution could or could not do. And I was like, it's kind of like a school or something like that, where they can't eat meat, they can't do this. And I laughed. I actually might have laughed when I saw it. And that's kind of when the idea started playing up. But when I first went, I went as a tourist, and 3 months later, I started writing the story.
Did you go back between the first time and you start writing, or was it just memory that you worked from?
I think somewhere I started talking to the people, like the manager. He was so funny. He talked for 2 hours eating pan, and he didn't give me a chance to breathe or have water or anything. And then I started talking to the people there, and I heard a very small, I think the one line for me was enough to want to make this story about how difficult it is for children to come leave their parents there, to accept this act of coming to this place. And I'm always kind of attracted to road movies, even as a viewer, right, because the journey of seeing people go outside their habitat and discovering themselves and discovering a new side of themselves. As someone who loves to travel, I can understand that sentiment, And I think that's where the film started, of this journey of a father and son. Yeah. Ironically, my last short film was also a journey film. So right. I think somewhere maybe I could make road movies my whole life.
And are there road movies that that you like particularly, or that inspired the shape of this film? Or that
No, I realized very early on that I'm making this film on very little resources. So if I get inspired and I want to make a shot a certain way, and it'll most likely not be possible. Right. So it was more about kind of discovering and making your own film.
Yes.
But in a lighting way, I'm really inspired by Wong Kar-wai's lighting, because he's someone who I love and as a visual artist, So somewhere that's the only film that kind of inspired me in a visual way. But I would a director, but otherwise it was kind of more about what we have, what's available to us, and making it work to tell the story.
So there's a story of a son who takes his father to Varanasi.
I've not taken my father there. He's right here.
I was going to say, your son took you there, Sanjay, to Varanasi to make this film. So had you been to Varanasi? Had you visited?
He took me to Varanasi. So it was not
in a shared taxi.
Yeah. So he I didn't ask him, let's go to Varanasi.
Yeah.
In this case, like he
Yeah.
said, let's go to Varanasi.
Yeah, yeah.
And he said that, there are moments in this film where, the characters, they would be matter of fact, but the audience would be engaged and they would enjoy it. And that time I didn't know, but, I went with his, vision. And because we had worked together in his short film, Kush, as well.
Right.
And for me, it was a great experience. And I was very happy he chose me as a producer for this one. Because, again, producer, director. So director is creative, responsibility. Producer, okay, you do your job. So, but it was so inspiring for me that, he was only 23 then. So, yeah.
And we had this conversation, I mentioned this outside actually, which is around the fact that you are 23 making a film with really big old people. Much older cast. How was that for you? Was there
I learned a lot during this process because I was working with most of the people who were much more professionally experienced than I was. But as I said to you, I'm a little bit of a goofball in real life, but when someone said I really feel responsible, I realized that the moment I walk onto a set, I realize that everybody's looking at me to figure out what we have to do during the day. And it kind of, it awakens you. You don't need coffee that day because you're scared.
Right.
But I do feel a certain responsibility when I'm working as a director, and I'm not so self-aware about my age because some days I wake up, I feel 10 years old, and some days I wake up and feel 60.
Yeah.
I think it's part of also the dream, because you've been working so hard to make films that when you get there, you can't fool around. So I think somewhere I think the only time I'm serious is when I'm on set.
I have to say, there's a really wonderful, I think I found it on the Facebook page,
Oh, no.
making of. And when I met you today, you did look about 10 years younger than you did.
It's the
in
beard,
the
it's only the
thing.
beard.
Yeah, so you definitely did have that gravitas on set, you could see it.
A film ages you by many years.
No doubt. Let's talk about the performances. I'm really glad I came in at the end where the father and the son are just saying goodbye to each other. It's like my favourite bit in the film. You've just got these incredible tender performances. It's such subtle performances from everyone that you've gotten. And Lalit Bail, who played the grandfather, he only acted in 2 films, right? He's quite.
This was his
His
second
second
film.
film.
It's his
yeah.
second film. So how did you do that? I mean, you some really
I'll talk about that scene particularly because I think if there's any aspiring directors, you'll understand where I'm coming from. That scene was, I'm a little embarrassed, but I'm okay now. I think I'm comfortable with it. Is one of the only scenes where I cried while making it. Because it's a scene where a parent leaves a child. I'm not going to say only father and I told them that when I used to go to boarding school, the most difficult moment is the moment you tell your parents goodbye. And I said, that's kind of what I want to capture here, that last hug, where you don't really want to go, but you kind of have to. And it's a reluctance of that moment, where they even touch it. And it's the first time in the film they really embrace, And so that's the one scene that I had a really strong emotional connection to while directing it as well. Right. I think it's all about talking because I think me and Lalitji would like, me and Adil, we were pretty much on the same page in the beginning, but mine and Lalitji's relationship really grew while we were making the film. Right. And today he's really proud of the film. And it's something, and it was a give and take relationship because he would often tell me about moments that I had not done justice to his character in the script. And on set we would change it because I wanted to be fair to him as well, and he's thought deeply about what his character would do in that moment. And that's how we made the film. It was a very collaborative effort, and it was a very honest sharing of where that scene or moment is coming from and trying to capture that.
And tell us a little bit, Sanjay, about the casting process. How did that beautiful triumvirate, particularly I'm thinking the daughter, the grandfather, and the father. Did you know you wanted those actors, or how did you come?
Well, as I said, creative decisions were completely left to him, who he wanted to cast. And so we were always, as a team, coming up with suggestions. So we had a casting director and support casting team. And of course, I had some experience in filmmaking prior, when I was working for a company in Bombay. And so I would always suggest, and he would throw those ideas all the time. And he did pick up a few here and there. And I think he was very clear exactly, the characterization. But the manager of the hotel, moment he was telling me, and I was pretty involved when he was developing the project because he would bounce things off me, and we went through some workshops in Venice. And so I could clearly see Mr. Anil Rastogi, right? And I said, Shubhi, this is Anil Rastogi. He says, yeah, I think this is a great idea. But I think the moment he saw Adil's face, he says, I found my Rajiv.
Right.
Until he actually was convinced about who Rajiv was,
Right.
he says, I'm not going to cast Daya. I'm not going to cast anybody. And then I think Rajiv was there, and the daughter. Actually, in Bombay and many places we've gone, people have said that they actually look like a family.
Yes.
They don't look, that it's casted.
Yes.
It's like
Yes.
one family came together, and it's so
Yes.
real.
Yes.
So, but
Yes.
it was all his calls because creative director.
Yes.
That's how it is. But it was really fun making together this
Yeah.
thing, and challenging.
Go on.
Yeah.
I think he answered
Challenging.
it very well. So.
So I think this is definitely Adil Hussein's film for sure.
No,
I
but I'll
think he-
surprise you.
Okay.
We just got news today that at the Melbourne Film Festival,
Huh.
both our actors have been nominated for Best Actor category.
As in the father and the grandfather.
Yeah. Today.
So people in Indian terminology, I used to tell them, you guys are both the hero and heroine, but you have to decide which one you are. It's kind of a love story, so it's all right,
Yeah.
That's how
Yes, it's uncanny that, just 2 hours ago we got an email
amazing.
from there that both your lead actors are nominated
Amazing.
for the Best Actor.
Yeah, I think there's such phenomenal performances. Let's talk about the music. Tajdar Junaid.
Junaid, yeah.
I just don't know. It's one song, effectively, isn't it, that carries the whole film, but there's something about it that becomes this other character in the film. So tell us a little bit about how you...
there's actually a few tracks, but we had one theme always in mind. And I'll speak a lot for, I'll first say how I picked Tajdar because while I was writing the script, I used to listen to his album. He has a beautiful album called What Color Is Your Raindrop? And I used to listen to that while I wrote the script. And so, but when it came to actually getting financing and knowing I can hire someone, my first name and only name was wanting to get Tajdar on board. And he was in, and he would say to me, Shubhi, I'm looking for something that captures the relationship, the dichotomy of this relationship. And it was while I was shooting, and this is how people do it nowadays, is that he sent me a WhatsApp track. And while I directed a scene, I listened to the track while I didn't listen to the dialogues because I knew that they knew the dialogues, but it was more about the feel of that track. And it was the theme. So it was the first track he sent me, and I was like, brilliant, this is it. Then we improvised a little bit while we were actually going into recording sessions and stuff after the film was made. But I knew that this is the right zone of the music. The hardest track we worked on was the one in the river when they're on the Ganga, the Aarti, when they're praying in the river. That's the one we had to keep trying different things because we were not convinced by it. And it's my personal favorite track, the one at the river. But we worked the hardest on that one. So I'm really proud of the music. And I think he as an artist is someone who he's one of my favorite collaborators to work with is because he's not someone trying to show off. He'll always be like, Shubhi, less music. So there's a couple of places where we've actually taken out the music on his advice. And I completely respect that because a lot of people they want to show their music, sometimes you find, I've met people like that.
Yeah.
And so he's one of the people I feel very close to, and he's someone who always works for the film.
Yeah, and your relationship with your DOP, because the other great thing about the making of, there's you and then there's
two of them, yeah.
the other young guy. Everyone else is like really old or quite old, and then there's you two. So
Yeah.
tell us a bit about your relationship
So
with
I have
your
two cinematographers, one's from the US and one's from Switzerland, and we met in film school. And actually, I was in a rainy day outside my dorm, moving to my first apartment, and a guy comes in with his SUV, and I ask him, please, it's raining. Can you please help me? I'll buy you beer, whatever you need. Just tell me, can you help me move? It's only a few blocks. And he's so annoyed. He's just come back from a 12-hour show. He's like, all right, get in. And I put all my luggage, and we go to the apartment. And I said, do you want the beers? He's like, no, I don't want it. And he just drives away. And that's the first time I met my DP. On a rainy day, he helped me out. And that's our relationship. We shot our short film together in Kush. and it's two guys because we the three of us, one's European, one's American, I'm Indian. So we would discuss so many ideas that are three different continents of sensibilities and how we grew up. And we always come up with something new, and we argue and we fight, and we, like sometimes it's like we don't talk to each other for half a day. But it's always been such a good result, that we can't let go. He texted me last night too, so at 2 a.m. for some reason. And so we knew that we have to work together. And when it came back to this film, I knew I wanted someone who's efficient, who I love, who I can. I don't know anything, I don't consider myself a very intelligent guy. So the guy so I knew I could ask them, I don't know, tell me, help guide me sometimes, So these two guys, whether it's light or whether it's the shot or the framing, we just work together so well. And they never make me, sometimes they make me feel small and make fun of me. But most of the time we do all right, and then we figure it out.
Feel that in the film, interestingly, can't you? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they've met them. They're great people, So they're
mixture of those three different continents or something.
Yeah, and I think it finds its own voice, I think that's we don't have much referencing. We don't do much referencing from other movies. We kind of try to figure it out ourselves as much as possible because we've never had money to do what we reference. So so it's about discovering what we can.
So you are young. You're 25 now. Your first short, Kush, was multi-award winning. This film, your first feature, has done not bad, has it? We're here at the BFI. The BFI's picked up for distribution around the country in the UK.
So please tell your friends if you liked it.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, don't tell your friends.
Yeah, tell them anyway.
Nice.
What do you put this down to, I guess? What do you put your kind of quite early success down to? What do you think is...
I think I put it down to the fact that I don't feel successful at all. I just when I'm working, I just go to work every morning, and it's about just, everybody keeps asking me which is the audience you made this for, because people in India connect to this film, people here connect to it, sometimes people here don't connect to it, sometimes people in India don't connect to it. So I don't really believe in this whole geographic or age bracket, or I don't believe, personally, I know maybe it's bad for producers out there, I'm sorry, but I don't believe in this whole audience thing so much sometimes, because I think, I think different films find us in different moments in our life. So I honestly just put it down to stories. I think the easiest judge for me to make a film is, does that story keep me awake at night? Does it bother me? Does it something I feel no one else is making? Unless it's a superhero film that's got a big paycheck. Otherwise it's mostly about films that I believe in and that have some sort of feeling. They leave a feeling in me, and I want to translate that feeling into a cinematic experience.
I think you have done that. Thank you.